Hi everyone, welcome again to my channel. I'm super excited to share with you this bikini cover. I am telling you, this is so easy to make, and I promise you, you can use any fabric you want. One of the fabric you could use is transparent, like this one, which is a sheer fabric, or you could use a chiffon, which is also transparent. But you can also use a fabric that is not transparent at all, and it will still come out very beautiful. This is so nice and easy to make. So while you're watching it, I want you to know that I would love you to subscribe to my channel. Also, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it and then share it with your friend, leave a comment, and also hit the notification button so that whenever I share a video, you would know immediately. So while you're here, I also want you to know that if you decide to make this for yourself, I want to be tagged. I want you to also take a picture of you wearing it because I know it's gonna look so beautiful on anybody. And I'm going to be like minimal. I'm not going to say a lot in this video. So just watch, enjoy, and if you have any question, please feel free to leave it at the comment section and let me know. So enjoy the video and see you at the end. All right, for starters, this is 2 yards of sheer fabric. So I divided it into 1 yard each. So each of the yard is going to sew. One part will be for the front and the other part for the back. For the front piece, I'm going to divide it into another 2 piece because it's like, remember the front has 2 pieces. So we're going to divide this by 2. And basically, I'm going to trim excess fabric or like the rough edges. I'm going to trim them out. And when I do that, I will divide the front piece by half. So just keep watching. Next up, I'm going to fold the back into 2. I'm not cutting it, but I'm going to cut the neck. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure 3 by 2 inches. So the long length would be 2 inches, while the shoulder part would be 3 inches. So basically, when I do measure that, I'm going to curve the cut and just cut the neck. But I left because I wanted to pick up something. So next up, I'm going to actually cut it right now. So 3 by 2. So now we have the neck. So the next thing I'm going to do is to put the front piece on the back. What I'm looking at is to have the same length at the shoulder part. So I'm going to cut out the extra fabric, which so we can have the same length. And then I'm going to cut it up to like at 13 inches by the center front. So that is done. I'm going to open up my fabric. I'm going to place the front piece on it. And the reason is I'm going to sew the shoulder part together, and make sure when you're sewing it to leave like up to 1 inch sewing allowance, because again, we're going to sew it twice. Basically, let me see how I can explain this. So you're going to sew the shoulder part by 1 inch, right? So when you do sew it, you're going to open up the seam. So when you open up the seam, you're going to sew it like that. As it's open, you're going to sew it on each part of the fabric. So look at that. Now I'm opening it, and then when I do open it, if you can iron it, just sew the seam down to the fabric. The reason we're doing this is to have space in between each allowance so we can place our rope. Now I'm about to cut the rope. I'm going to cut it by 1 inch or 1.5, depends on what you how thick you want it. So I cut it, I think it was about 1.5, 1.5. But basically you can actually, I cut 1.5, but I trimmed it a lot, so it ended up being like 1 inch. So 1 inch by 45, I cut it twice, and I also cut an additional fabric which I didn't use. So all you need is 2 pieces of 1 inch by 45. So one of the piece will be for the waist rope, and the other one will be for the shoulder piece. So as me measuring it, and you're going to fold it by the 1 inch, and then you're going to sew it throughout. When you do sew it, you can trim it, and then you're going to use whatever you have to turn it inside out, which is what you see me doing right there. So I did go ahead and turn it inside out. Basically, for you to use this particular one, you had to cut it on the side, and I did that, and I turned it inside out, which afterwards, it took a while, but just keep watching, you'll see what happens. Make sure to knot the edges, which is what I did. You could use whatever you want. You can like put the decorative beads at the edge, whatever works for you. But for me, I just knot it and left it like that. I think in the, maybe later on I might put like a bead at the edge, and it's gonna be pretty. But because again, you know, we're going to have this at the shoulders. Well, so just watch. So next up, I'm going to take one of the rope. I'm going to cut it in four because it's going to be used at the shoulder. So each shoulder will have 2 pieces, and we will install. So remember how I told you we sewed 1 inch, and then we actually opened up the seam and we actually sewed it on the body part of the fabric. Yes, that was to create a hole in the middle so we can pass the rope through. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to install the ropes there. What I used here was a safety pin so to pass through the hole, which works very well. So when I do that at the end, when I get to the edge, I'm going to use like an office pin to hold it together before I sew it. So it's all complete, and the next thing is to just open them up. And basically next thing we're going to do here is to measure the part of the waist. I mean, yeah, the sides that we're going to sew, we're going to measure it. So here I did measure like 13, so it's going to be 13 inches from the shoulder. So I measure 13 inches. I'm going to sew 6 inches. That's all I'm going to sew at the waist. So when I completed sewing the waist, the next thing I did was to hem the edges. So hem every part of the edges. That's both sides and then the front piece. So that completes the sewing. Thank you for watching.